All right. So this is the second episode of the Intellectual Boys podcast we started a week ago. We have the same five people we did last time. We have Dar, we have Emiliano, Esteban James, and me, Vincent. This time we're going to be doing things a little bit different, so hopefully it'll be a little more organized. Each of us has a couple topics we wanted to discuss, but so that it's not completely scripted, we haven't already thought out like our full-fledged responses, so to kind of keep it more relaxed. So let's start with Esteban. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to start off today by talking about the death penalty. So,
What
or
about?
like whether or not we should abolish it. So, personally, I think we shouldn't because it helps with a lot of stuff, especially like economically with the state. It's like in which it's going to happen. Um, and
Well,
yeah,
what do you mean economically? Like, expand on that.
so the amount of time that a prisoner's like held, or like a person's held in prison, and like the amount of money that's spent and like invested in them, like keeping on like serving their sentence, especially with the severity of like whatever crime they committed, it could save a lot of money and just resources uh, economically for a state to just uh, carry out the death penalty.
All
Yeah,
right.
so it's cheaper to kill someone.
Yeah,
than
right.
to
So it would just be cheaper to like kill them.
Okay, but let's say, but like, it wouldn't be ethical just to kill every person that would have been like incarcerated for like something petty, right?
Mhm.
So like, there's obviously has to go ethics with that. So like, where would you draw the line for um, like when it should be allowed and like not deserving, but in a way kind of like justified?
Well, I think the severity of the crime would be like ranking among, I don't know, like maybe murder or something along those lines, but not necessarily like if you do make it murder, I guess it.
So
I
you're
don't know, anything that would apply like a life sentence, you could just replace it with the death penalty, right? Anything that would result in a life sentence.
mm, what
Well, some
about
people would rather like have their like killers per se like rot in jail than just die.
Yeah, like
Right,
adding on
but I
to
think
what
what-
Vincent said, like I do agree with you, Esteban, but I remember talking about this a while back, and one of like the arguments that I heard that like I didn't know how to counter or anything because it was, I gotta admit, it was a pretty good argument. It's how can how can you let someone just die and escape all the bad things they did to someone while that person still has to suffer from all like the mental trauma and all that?
Well, this is kind of a counter to that, is that if they don't know for sure who did it, right? Like, just say evidence points in their direction, but they are actually innocent. That's, for me, that's kind of like jumping the gun a bit. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, they fought it in court and stuff, but if the person is actually, like, innocent, right? You assign them the death penalty. You just took an innocent man's life away from them, and you just created the same situation that the other family was facing, or other group of people that were facing it, and those hardships and stuff, to someone else because you just killed an innocent man. And we don't have like a perfect system. That's why it's always being like questioned like and like modified so we can try to make it better and stuff. But it's like, that would be like, I guess, my counter to it of like, yeah, you can do it, but what if the evidence, like, it points you the direction, but it's not actually true? Like, it's just so coincidental that they end up killing a random person.
Well, if it's a
Yeah.
definite thing in the act they committed is serious enough, I do think the death penalty should be like.
Oh yeah,
but
for
then
sure.
shouldn't that go back to James's point where like if they even took away a life so of someone you loved, you'd want to see them like be in jail for the rest of their lives, right? Not just die and take the easy way out, right?
I think
So I guess
another,
it's just a loop.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
It really is.
and I think also another thing with that too is that like whether it doesn't matter if you love someone or not, because you have to remember like unconditional love exists like for other family members and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's like, oh yeah, what if a person was a murderer or whatever, but like the family would still like unconditionally love them.
Well, do
No,
you
I don't
guys
think-
think? Oh, sorry, you go.
No, you go.
Well, I was gonna change the thing. Like, actually, do you guys think? So let's say, like, someone shot somebody, right? Like, do you think the victim should decide whether it's a life penalty or death, or do you think that's up to the legal system?
Definitely not. I think it's up to the legal system.
Yeah, I feel like if you put it on the person, not only will it mess up them in a sense, but then it also goes back to like the whole ethical thing and
Hmm.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you just leave it up to the person, they're gonna want. I don't know.
Like,
It's gonna
they
be
want,
like
that
they're
personal
gonna want it for their own like
Yeah.
reasons, right? It's gonna be like selfish. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know.
I mean, all human behavior is like selfish in a way, but
Well, I mean, if someone they love just got killed, they're gonna want to. It's
Yeah.
not gonna be like from a fair standpoint. Well, not
Yeah.
that it should be fair, but
it's gonna be
just-
biased. It's gonna be
yeah.
biased.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it should be biased. I don't know.
Well, like emotional, yeah, like emotionally biased, right? Because like now they're like traumatized.
Mhm.
Going back to whether it's like a life penalty or the death sentence, I feel like it shouldn't only like be considered by the act they made, but I feel like it should also they should also take into account like the type of person the murderer is. Like, if they're the type of guy that wants to stay in jail and would be perfectly fine with being in jail, I don't think that should be the punishment.
Oh, I see. Yeah, maybe like. Well, how would you get that information out of a person?
That is true. But I mean, sometimes there's a way to tell.
Well,
But
yeah, yeah,
that's
But
true.
you look
It's
at their
different.
criminal like records.
yeah, like
Yeah.
repeated attempts to actually get jailed or whatever.
But let's
Yeah.
say it's a person that doesn't have any criminal records, like hypothetically, right?
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
they do manslaughter, but they're still fine staying in prison because they'll know they're safe, right? So it's not necessarily like he's fine with it, but he can he's not content. What is it? He can like
You can bear it.
Yeah, he
You
can
gotta
bear
deal
it.
with it.
Yeah. Okay. That doesn't make sense. All right. Anybody else have anything to say about it?
Let's see.
Sorry.
Well, death penalty. I don't know. It just reminds me of like going back to Hammurabi's code of law. You know, an eye for an eye, all that. You know, that it's like it's cruel back. It was cruel back then.
What, do you agree with that, or what are you saying?
Oh, I'm saying, the death penalty. It just depends for every situation.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, there should be like a set
Yeah.
method to deal with things.
I mean, unless there's like hard evidence, right? Like you have footage.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
hard evidence, I believe.
Yeah.
They-
Well,
they deserve it.
nowadays, like
Wait,
footage,
but
like fakes.
But then
Alright.
yeah, then you get that where like there could have been other factors and there could have been something wrong with the person mentally.
oh, I
It's
guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that just kind of goes back to ethics, you know? What if they are ill and stuff? Do you still do it? Or do you give them the opportunity to try to recover and see if they change?
I think it depends on how many times they've committed a crime like this. If it's their first time, I think they should be given not necessarily a second chance and be let free, but like just
A
jail
warning.
time and not like
Mhm.
death. But yeah,
Like a strike system.
yeah. Unless they did something seriously bad, like then maybe they deserve the most extreme consequence. But
Well, isn't there like something, what's that called? Isn't it like accidental manslaughter or whatever?
no, I don't even think that should be given the life sentence. Like that's completely different.
Well, not necessarily, because
It's
like you're supposed
accidental.
to be like I think an example of this I think was like when an earthquake happened and they didn't correctly notify it or something.
Mhm.
Like you're supposed to be trained to give out like the information of a disaster or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Let's say like a volcano were to erupt. You live at the base of the volcano.
Yeah.
These experts are supposed to be trained to like notify and correctly notify the people saying like, all right, start evacuating like 30 hours like ahead so like you can actually be safe and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Let's say they do it late or they weren't even able to notify anybody. All right?
Mhm.
They're not doing their job and it goes back to like ethics, you know, did they do it on purpose or was it accidental? No one would know because like let's say they were the only ones there, which is highly unlikely, but you know, or it's like a setup.
Yeah, and because nobody would know, that's why I don't think it should be the life sentence, unless like there's definite evidence that
Yeah.
this was done on purpose.
Yeah.
Then maybe it should be something more extreme. I don't know if it's a life sentence or not. I don't really like know the full details of what requires a life sentence, but if it was, if if it's unknown whether it was they meant to do that or not, I think it should be way less severe than the other way around.
In that situation, you could also place some of the blame on the victim himself because he chose to live at the base of a volcano
That's true.
Well,
and he put too much reliance on the experts.
well, hold on. It's not that they even decided to live at the base of the volcano or reliance on experts, right? Because we rely on experts every day
Yeah.
for earthquakes that happen here and stuff. It's like, well, it's our fault for living in an earthquake habited or an earthquake hotspot area, you know? Or it's like saying like, oh, it's their fault that they decided to live like in Florida, a place that's known for like getting hurricanes passed in. That's not a fair thing to say. If that's like the only place
Yeah.
that they're able to manage because other places are already occupied, then that's where they're gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
We good? Anybody else want to say something? All right. Going on to a bit of a lighter topic, right, James? Let's go move on to one of yours. What do you want to talk about?
All right. Well, it could be kind of similar to this, talking about crime and stuff. My thing is just, I have a issue with the modern rappers today and what they're promoting, and just because like there's many examples of rappers who are like, yeah, I dropped out of high school, yeah, I made millions of money, you can do it too. It's just promoting bad behavior in kids who look up to these people, and it's pretty messed up. You're like telling these kids that it'll be fine if they just give up on education.
Right. I think, obviously, there's gonna be like influences all around that'll influence people for the worse, right? But it's really easy to get like intoxicated by your own success to actually just like flex on these people, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
Well, to clarify kind of some of it, what would you classify as a modern rapper?
Yeah, like give some examples.
All right, some examples: Lil Pump,
Little anything.
Lil anything. And then like not only that with the education thing, they also promote like drugs and stuff. Like they're like, oh yeah, I drink lean, yeah, and
don't they
this,
like
I take Xans.
don't they straight up like drink lean in some of their like music videos and stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're basically promoting it, showing that it's like that it's okay.
I actually do see that as a huge issue. But
I
do you
mean-
think it should be like
Mm.
there should be like a rule against doing that, or
I feel
I
like
thought there was.
was there?
I don't think
Like,
so.
Like where they post their content, like platforms like YouTube, shouldn't they not do?
Yeah,
It's
I
probably
feel
not
like
real.
yeah.
That's
but-
definitely true. Well, maybe they. I think YouTube at the most they would just like age restrict it, right?
I think
Well,
I think
okay.
those types of videos would just get age restricted if anything.
But they wouldn't. The drugs that like they put on there aren't real. Like unless it's like they're in a location where it might be legal or something. But they wouldn't. Like YouTube would have to do something about that.
I mean, they could if
But
they
they'd probably
wanted to.
take down the video. Like,
Well-
if it's that bad, they'll take down the video.
Are you sure?
It would
I
have
Well,
to
that'd
be.
be pretty bad.
YouTube.
Yeah,
I
it would
don't
have to
know.
be like astronomically like bad. You know.
Yeah, but there
And-
are. Oh yeah, sorry, you go.
Oh, I was gonna say, and like, they wouldn't have a reason to, cause that's just more traffic for the site.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say.
Oh.
Like, if anything, they're just gonna leave it because they know it's gonna
Right.
make them money, and yet that's why like there's a whole ton of issues on YouTube because some videos are getting taken down for reasons that aren't
Like
Reasons-
might make the platform.
yeah
look
that
bad.
don't make sense. But yet you have other videos that are way worse and they're not getting taken down, but they're getting millions of views, bringing in money.
Actually,
See-
I don't think YouTube's been profitable. Like, it's profitable to other people, but I don't think it's actually profitable to the site.
Well, yeah.
Well, in the same regardless, it's like they take down the content that doesn't benefit them, but like they will leave up stuff that'll just bring in. views,
Yeah.
right?
But going back to the whole like modern rappers are bad, I agree there are some that are bad, but there's still some good ones out there. Like a recent like famous one, like
Drake.
No, like this. You know, this is America, right? That one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like huge. That's actually gotten like a good amount of people talking about these issues, and not that it's gonna bring change, but it still brings like a positive. Well, I guess that's controversial whether it's a positive message or not to some people, but like it's food for thought. It's like bound to bring some good change.
I just think that these rappers, they should just take into consideration of what they're saying and how the younger audience will perceive it as, because like I was saying, they're just going to be promoting drugs and stuff. They should real and like promoting dropping out of high school. They should realize not everyone's life is the same, and everyone's different. It might not work out for them, so they have to take that responsibility to say like, or not promote that and show that not everything will work out fine.
Well, I think that goes into like a thin line, like that you're kind of crossing of, like maybe mild censorship and stuff that would have to change, and
What do you mean?
also what their values and beliefs are, like their morals. Because if that's what they believe in, then that's not something that they would necessarily like change that easily, or that easily. But if you're talking about, oh, they should promote this, this, and this, or they shouldn't promote that, like this and this and this, that's more of like a mild censorship, and telling them like, hey, the stuff that you want to like kind of make music about and get creative about, yeah, I don't like it, so change your morals or whatever and rap about something else. And it's like, well, I don't.
Like if
It's what
they
they're
start,
passionate
like,
Yeah, I can
if they
see
start
that.
rapping about like My Little Pony, all the like viewers gonna what the this guy's fake.
I think they
So
need to they need to express not in their music, but they just need to get it out there somehow that like they're not encouraging dropping out of high school or doing hardcore even though some people are. But
like
I'd say some of them aren't.
like in interviews and stuff, like press conferences.
Yeah,
Something along those lines.
because like the youth is really like us or those that are younger than us. We're really like influenced by these type of people because we see them all the time and they're like huge
Right.
to everybody else.
But you also have to think about like how old these like rappers are, right? They're like barely a couple years older than us.
Yeah,
That's
they
true.
are.
Like they barely. I'm honestly like, if I was as successful as them, like I honestly just wouldn't care about whoever I was influencing.
That's yeah, that's true.
It's
But-
insane, like how Espan said, how like they're basically barely older than us. It's insane to put into perspective. Like they're performing in concerts that like they advertise and they put like, oh, 18 years or older, right? But some of these rappers are 17,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like they're having concerts with only 18 years or older. All right, so like keep that in mind. It's like, well, what kind of stuff are they expecting to have at concerts and stuff that like
So
they aren't even allowed, like they're not even in legal age to do.
that's true. So do you think it's the rapper's job to let the audience know that hey, you shouldn't do this, or do you think it's the audience's job to already kind of know maybe I shouldn't do this?
It's a double-edged sword.
The audience can't like read what the rapper's thinking in his mind, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
all rappers are gonna have a different perspective on
Mm-hmm.
things.
I think it would have to be on both. Like, if the rapper just gave like a little bit of insight of how they actually got to that point or whatever, or like why they rap about certain things, then I mean, just like more background on themselves. Which many have probably done.
Yeah, but nobody's
But,
bothered to like
yeah,
actually.
no one's bothered to like look at it. And also for like audience members, like let's say like, oh, parents know that kids are like listening to it or whatever, or just even the kids thing, like the kids themselves, is to make sure, like, for parents to realize like, oh, hey, gotta make sure they know like that's what they've done, but doesn't mean that everyone's gonna go that way, but also for kids to just be like, oh, that's cool, but like not get caught up in it.
Yeah. Alright. Anybody else want to say something?
There's always those like Uber fans that try to imitate like,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that happens everywhere though.
That
So,
that's
But that-
true.
maybe
yeah,
this
that's-
is an extreme of when it happens, it's kind of bad, but yeah, it's an extreme. But that just happens everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Let's go on to Dar, why don't we talk about one of your topics?
Um, Well, Emiliano and I have been talking about
Oh
this,
yeah.
a couple of weeks ago.
Let's hear it.
So, there's a notion that California should split into three states.
I think it actually made the ballot, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah, it did.
It earned a spot in November ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Originally, for those that don't know, I think this was presented last year, and the person trying to do this, I think initially put it as 6 states, right?
It was crazy.
Well,
but-
I actually didn't know that.
People were like, no, that's way too many and stuff. So, after he
all
failed to get
news.
the required amount of signatures, he lowered it to 3, which in turn also, like, it was something about also lowering the number. It lowered the number of required signatures. So he
Mhm.
exceeded, like, I think he almost tripled the amount of signatures that he needed. And now it's, like, in the ballot and stuff. I don't know the full story, but that's pretty much just, like, a brief explanation of how it got into the ballot. And it's insane. And
So,
that's-
Dar, what do you think? Do you think it should be split into 3 states or no?
There are, pros and cons. I honestly, I would like to see what would happen if California did split into 3 states. So right now we're in like Riverside, right? So we'd be in Southern California, but like Los Angeles,
We would be on the border.
that'd be on California. So like it would split into Northern California, Southern California, and just California. And I think no, that's too confusing. Like having
It is.
all 3 states named California.
Yeah, north,
Yeah.
south, and regular.
I mean, there's North
Mhm.
Dakota and South Dakota.
But
No,
is
but-
is there a middle Dakota?
Is there just a Dakota?
Well, I don't really know a lot about this so dark. Could you tell me why would there be any benefits to doing this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, so like, it's like the whole there's the political side where the Democrats are usually in the big cities like Los Angeles and San
Mhm.
Francisco, but then like all the Republicans and stuff are usually more inland. So when you split the state into 3, you have states that are able to get their political voice out, and like it like even out like the political aspects of the whole region.
To kind of build up on what Dar said too, they divide it in that specific way too of, and like in terms of like political aspects, is that because like the Democrats usually get all the electoral votes for California since the majority is like Democratic, but by dividing in that way, each region is controlled basically by like or has a really strong influence over a political party.
Mhm.
That way you would have like a more diverse vote set for when like elections happen. And each like separate state would also have around the same population. So it's like it's almost pretty much like evenly divided in terms of population as well.
Oh.
No,
So are there no like? Oh, sorry, you go, James.
I know like I saw a rundown on the whole situation, and another one of the main things they're trying to do this for is because he believes that different sections of California have different needs and different situations, which to me it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like California, Southern California has different needs than Northern California, and I understand that, but I don't know, it's odd.
Are there any like economic benefits, or is it just like
Yeah. Well,
what?
I think the north would end up booming because that's like Silicon Valley and everything. So that would end up booming. I think towards I don't know for sure, but I know for sure it's like within the top 5 to 10, like more of the richer states, right?
Mhm.
Then California, which would be like the Los Angeles and the beaches, right? Those would make the revenue off of like tourism. That would also jump higher into the like economic ladder of like most profitable states, I guess.
Mm.
But the downside is Southern California is based on farming and agriculture, right? So Southern California gets a drop
Those are boring.
in economic
Yeah.
status.
We're a desert.
Yeah. And so it raises the question of, well, what's gonna happen since we're gonna drop in economic status? Is it gonna like make taxes even higher? Minimum wage is gonna go even higher to try to like support like the like weakened economy or whatever, like, you know? And that's kind of like the counter argument for it. It's like, yeah, 2 states will end up booming, but what about like a massive like
Mm-hmm.
like what about the other massive state? Like that's just kind of left in ruins.
Personally, I think we're fine the way we are right now, unless like something huge comes up where there's an actual divide in California with the people. I think we should stay where we are. Like we're not doing great, but we're not doing that bad either.
If it ain't
I don't
broke,
see why we
don't
would
fix
do
it.
that though. Like,
Yeah.
I know the benefits, but then what are the negatives of just staying as we are?
Yeah, like why bother?
It's just less. I think it's less like not productive things happening. It's more times to get things done because like as a state they have to focus on one section at a time. You know, it's like
Oh,
like Southern California infrastructure is failing. Let's focus on
Increased.
that.
Oh,
Increased focus.
So while like that, like as one state, like while they focus on fixing like let's say Southern California infrastructures, the Northern California infrastructures like would start to like, you know, like become like hurt from like all the focus going to Southern California. So now they have to refocus pretty much to the north, and it just goes like a back and forth kind of.
I'd be very interested to see what happens.
But also academically, it would raise a question of out of state schooling for colleges.
Oh,
What if they? It'd be great if they like did a system where it's like, well, the California system where like if you go in between all the California like UCs, then you're fine.
yeah.
It'll act as one state, but it's not really.
Yeah.
But if it acts as one state, then you should just keep it at one state.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
that's kind of like
Well, that's just for schooling though. That's the only thing we would
Well,
kind of
that's-
keep the same. But
that's
everything else would
culture.
kind of change.
There's also the argument of like if you split California into 3 states, like Northern California will be like stingy of its water. Because like, you know, we have that drought going on in Southern California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if we do split, then Northern California is gonna be like, hey, no water for you, it's ours all about.
yeah, Northern California controls I think most of the main infrastructures like Dar said, the water and I think electricity, though I'm not too sure on that. But I know they control some like most of like the major infrastructures of most of California.
Oh, electricity, we can just start building more solar panels. It's so much
To me, it
sun.
sounds like there are too many variables to actually go through with this. Like-
Yeah.
It's too unpredictable to see what would happen. So
Well-
I'd kind of discard it.
It's
in
left
some alternate reality.
it's left
well,
to
no.
see in November, I guess.
Oh yeah. All right. Anybody else? Nope. All right. Let's see. Nana, let's talk about one of yours.
All right. So, speaking about like California and its schooling, what do you guys think about starting school on like later hours? You know,
What do you like?
Like-
Just later hours, or would we get out later?
you would get out later in return to get to still get the amount of like education that you need.
Mhm.
But I'm talking about like
Just
you know
later
instead of
start time.
yeah, like instead of starting like at 7, 8 in the morning, you know, you would start at like 10 to 12 in the afternoon, like in the morning, close to
Oh
the
my.
afternoon.
I feel like I've thought
I'd-
about this. I've thought about this a lot. I think the time should be 9 to 4. I think that's like a good time, and it's still like 7 hours what we have right now. But like having to get up, especially next year, we're gonna have to start getting up at like 6 or 5:30. That's-
Yeah. Oh
That's
my.
too early. I don't know. When you wake up and it's still dark outside, it's hard.
Like
But
for me, I'm kind of interested in see how things would change. Cause like for me personally, I'm more of a night owl. Like during
Yeah.
the day, I'm not productive, but like at night, you know, something just hits me, and I'm like, all right, let's get everything done. But then I have to wake up early in the morning, so I'm always exhausted. Um, but it also kind of leaves it's like, well, for busier families and stuff, where like people like
Like mine.
myself and stuff have to wait for like families to come in, like from other jobs and stuff.
Mhm.
You know, instead of waiting outside of like the school or whatever, right, for like hours on end, like not being productive at all. If it were to start at a later time and therefore end at a later time, I wouldn't have to, or like, yeah, well, people like me wouldn't have to like spend that much time waiting after school, and that's not like, in turn, it's not that much time lost
Mm.
of what could have been like productive, like time spent.
And for those that would still have to get up at like 6 because of like, your parents have like work. They, it's an issue, but it's not that much of an issue because you have to wake up at 7. You get there like an hour too early, but you could always just like take a nap while you wait, right? Or you could like finish up homework that you weren't able to do, or you could study.
Getting an hour too early to school?
Like, yeah, let's say school starts at 9, right? But my parents have to be at work at 7.
Yeah,
So
so
they
you're
have to
saying
drop me
like
off
the
early.
work
Yeah.
hours don't change, but they have to like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I
waiting
personally-
1 or 2 hours for school to start sounds really bad.
it does, but that's like, that is the case for some kids, but I don't think that's the case for most.
Yeah.
I mean, unless I'm wrong.
Adapt, improvise, overcome.
Adapt.
That would suck, like waiting 2 hours for school to start, but there are a lot of things you could do in that
That
time,
would
and I'm
be
sure.
actually
Mhm.
horrible.
It would, yeah. I can see Esteban though. That would
What
be.
would you? Well,
Yeah, but, like-
That would be
yeah.
kind of.
And that's kind of the downside to it. It's like for those people that already have a set schedule and stuff, it's gonna be, it would make it like
It would mess up so much.
like depending on what they have to rely on, like let's say city buses and stuff. It could either have the thing of like, you know, it has a slight, like a really low chance of actually improving how schedules work, you know, like
Mhm.
in terms of like when city buses and things like that, like transportation comes, but it has I would say it has a more likely chance of screwing up people that already have those set schedules,
Hmm.
and like either making them on too early or too late to like school.
Like if you like, people are already settled in with the current schedule. So if you change it up right now,
It would
like-
just cause more.
Yeah, like let's say a
It's
bus
chaos.
comes by at 7, right? This is like totally unrealistic, but like as an example, like a bus comes by to pick up people for school like at 7, right?
Mhm.
But it only comes in the area like that early, and the next bus you have to wait until like 9 o'clock, right? School would have already started, and so you're already late. But if you go at the 7 o'clock one, you're gonna be there extremely early, so it kind of defeats the benefits of
Yeah,
starting.
that's what I was thinking. Like, if we do change, like, a lot of people revolve around school.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
and to change that many like schedules for like everything, it's gonna be kind of weird.
that'd probably ruin our economy.
The only downside does seem like transportation. Personally, I'd love to see it start at 9, but overall, I think it is too
It
iffy.
would just cause too many. It's too many variables involved.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's true.
There's too many reliances and stuff that people would have to like overcome for it to actually become like even like a feasible idea, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
All
All
right,
right. let me-
Vincent, what do you want to talk about?
All right.
Mm.
So this one's kind of like a light subject, and I think we're all gonna agree on this, but I still want to talk about it anyways. So recently, oh shoot, I don't recall where, but gaming has been classified as a disorder. Like,
Oh, by who?
By the WHO.
For the
yeah.
World Health Organization.
yeah. And there was one of their main points was there was an article released, I think it was like a week ago, that talked about how a girl literally like she wet herself so that she could keep playing a game, right? And well, that's obviously something bad. I don't think it's just gaming. I think that's just a hobby that she wanted to keep doing, and like she
Well,
wouldn't listen when she was told to get off. Like I think that could be said with anything. Like if I was into, I don't know,
knitting.
Hot Wheels, right? Like I was in the middle, I was doing something, and I was told to get off. I still wouldn't want to get off. I don't think it's specifically gaming that gives you that mindset. I think it's just hobbies in general, and I don't think we should classify it as a disorder.
Well, I think you're kind of twisting the words. It's not that gaming itself is a disorder. It's how much someone would play,
Yeah.
and depending on what they would like, they would prioritize it as a disorder.
Yeah, I remember it like stated how like in order for one to be classified with this disorder, like it would have to affect like just your social
Your
like
health.
interaction with everyone, your health, like, and it has to be through like the time of a year or something. It like if it drastically changes how you are, then that's when it's considered a disorder.
I remember this like one couple in Taiwan, like
Yeah.
they spent more time looking after their digital baby than like in real life, and the baby ended up dying.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they stayed at the internet cafe for so long playing The Sims.
That sounds really bad.
But another thing to take note of, though, as well, I don't know if you guys read up on it or not, but just to throw it out there, there's a lot of, like, argument and debate right now on it of saying the World Health Organization publicized that statement, even though it had a lot of, like, debate, or not debates, points against it from the scientific and, like, the researching communities. Because they're saying gaming disorder is not necessarily the main disorder, you know, that can derive from from countless number of disorders. And although some games could be more like addictive than others, there's no set saying like video games are more addictive than like what Vincent was bringing up earlier, than like something else that someone would do as a hobby. It would go down more as like an obsessive or like a compulsive thing that a person would have to go through, not just like, oh, it's just gaming.
So like the disorder's not caused by the game, but like by the person that's
Yeah,
playing
like
it.
there's
Yeah,
they're
that's what I was
arguing.
trying to say. I just didn't.
Depending on
like,
what kind of person, obviously, like it's different among every person, but like it definitely depends on the person to be. If they are like attracted to that, like the game for a long period of time, whereas someone else will probably just get up and do something else. They'll just get bored or something.
Yeah, and the main argument is just that gaming disorder isn't the actual disorder. It could be classified more as a side effect of another disorder, like let's say like depression, right?
Yeah.
But in itself is not a disorder. It's just the way a person could cope with something much worse.
Okay. So, kind of adding on to that, how many hours do you think is good enough, like per week, for someone to actually be doing this, or is there a set amount of hours that someone should be doing it?
Well, it should be different for everyone, right? And as
It's
long as it
different.
doesn't
Yeah,
harm,
It's
like,
different.
as long as it doesn't change how you live, I think it's fine.
Like I read another research paper saying that they like, I forgot which group of people did it, but they made 3 groups of people. They had what they classified as non-gamers, which like they pretty much don't play any video games.
Mhm.
Like normal people that, you know, they play like about an hour a week. They go on every so often. And then like the gamers of where they were children and stuff played like over 10 hours a week, right? Which I think is safe to say that we all do.
Yeah.
But in their testing, they're saying, you know, there's no difference in behavior from the spectrums of gamers and non-gamers, and like the middle testing group. But parents that had the gaming children, they would report more disobediences, but that's not a fair statement, showing how the parents are biased and against video games, when in their testing themselves and from all the testing that they've done, they didn't act not in a slight difference from those that barely played video games at all. So it's just more parents like being relentless, like, oh no, I hate video games, more
like
than
a generational thing.
Yeah, rather than like the kids themselves actually being like unresponsive or whatever. It's more of like a biased like thought that the parents are giving out.
I do think I think it's the kid's mindset that depends on their priorities is what I mean to say. Like a personal example, I think we talked about this last time. I didn't care about like school in 6th grade. All I cared about was playing video games. But that wasn't the video game's fault. It was my fault that I didn't care about school at all. So I I think limiting video games in that case would have been a good idea because that could help me get my priorities straight. But after that, I feel like it shouldn't matter. Like the parents should just make sure their kids have their priorities in straight. They're getting good grades. They're not being like losers. And then it's whatever. They can play as long as they want if they're doing what they need to do.
Discipline.
Yeah, this.
Yeah.
Alright.
I th-
Anybody else?
well, I
yeah,
just wanted to add a final note that also within that research, they also found benefits to playing for just as little as like 2 hours a week, which were how was it improved
The
coordination,
hand-eye
like hand-eye coordination, ability to like think on their what's that called? It's not like it's like there's a better word, like quick thinking, I guess, like a quick reaction to scenarios and stuff,
Hmm.
and just like simple stuff like that. But they were saying that the effects pretty much top off at like 4 hours a week, and anything above that like didn't really make that much of a difference. Though they did note that those that played over 5 hours a week, or like even on the extreme of like 10 plus, as the higher they went, the more, or like the faster like reflexive actions that they had.
Okay.
I found that pretty cool.
I have a question.
Sure.
All right, so I like playing like RPG games where you get quests and you do what the people tell you to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like my mom complains that like I don't do things like myself. Like I don't clean my room myself. I don't wash the dishes like
I
on
think
my
that's something
Nice.
else.
Yeah.
That's something else.
Wait, so could it be oh it's my fault then.
I think those are regular
Definitely
like
not.
characteristics of RPGs, though.
Yeah. Wait. I don't
Wait,
think
look-
That's
you're
average.
not. I don't think your mom complaining about that has anything to do with the RPG.
Yeah.
but like I don't know. As it's like I'm used to doing what like instructions I'm told. So like when I'm not told to do anything, I don't do anything. and
Yeah,
then my
that's
mom
more. I feel like that's more of a.
That's not the
you
mom's fault.
thing.
Hey, yeah,
It's
hey.
my- it's
Actually,
my-
I'm kind of that way too. Like, if someone doesn't tell me
Really?
to do
No, I am
something-
too.
I think it's most people actually. 'Cause, like,
Yeah,
we're so
I
used
can.
to like being assigned
certain-
stuff, like where we don't get assigned something, we won't actually like do stuff. But I think that's cool.
What do you mean by cool?
Wait, cool.
Wait,
Because if someone tells us to do something, we'll do it.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
What if
But
they
we
don't?
won't.
Hey,
If
Esteban,
they
you wanna
don't say
rob a
anything,
bank?
we'll do it. No, I mean like I don't know, something like I don't know.
You gotta specify.
I think I get what you're saying, but that's fine, right? If we're not told to do something, what? Well, in some cases, right? Like obviously, if there's an emergency, like if someone's like on the floor and they can hardly move, and we don't call 911 because we weren't told
I
to, that's
wasn't told
obviously
to.
an issue.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Well,
obviously
we
an
weren't
issue.
assigned to call 911, so
Yeah.
But I feel like in like Dar's situation where like you see your room's messy and stuff, like
but I'm comfortable in my own stuff.
that's when you should be like, hey, maybe it's messy. Hey, look,
Well-
it's messy. Maybe I should do something about it.
Well,
Yeah.
hold on. I think that brings in another topic of discussion, that of like organizational patterns, because I mean having a messy room is one thing, but like just talking about like someone being messy, like let's say like a binder, right, is another thing,
Oof.
because that can be like an organizational like thing that they have, like system that they like someone else has created, but like it works for someone else but not another person, right?
Yeah.
Which is that's just how they work. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've gotten so much flack for how messy my binder appeared to be. And I've actually had a couple teachers like challenge me to find certain papers and from classes and stuff, and they had like other
Oh.
kids verify that like that's the right paper or whatever. with my organizational patterns,
Dang.
and like I was able to find them instantly because like I just know how I organize my own things.
Well, I agree that it does work for you, but if I'm being honest, if a teacher tells me to do something like that, even though it works for me, I'm gonna do what they say, right? Like,
Well,
it's
that
not
kind of
because. Oh wait, what?
I was gonna say that kind of just goes against the fact that like it's not helping you out anymore. It's just um, it's more of like, oh, I want it like this, but like I don't care if it like will make the way that you learn and understand things worse, because like
Yeah.
you don't want to organize it the way I do. I want it organized that way, but for yourself it can be like, oh no, that's bad because I literally can't understand or follow the format that they're like doing it in. Like I like my own format better.
But that's in that specific situation is when I would change my binder because my mindset is that that's my teacher, right? She controls my grades, so it's better to be on her good side than to be on her bad side when it comes to that. So but if she were to say like change your lifestyle, I obviously wouldn't do that. But just I don't know, small stuff like that I'd change.
Well, on the topic of teachers and stuff, Esteban, you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah.
You wanted to talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
how
Oh!
technology could replace
Oh.
like
The
teaching.
transition.
Dang.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about how like rapidly developing technology is starting to like place concern on us because they're like people are thinking they could replace our jobs and stuff, and it's definitely happening with like some people, right? But I want to talk about teachers.
All
Now,
right.
would any of you think like it would be better for say like a computer teaching class instead of say like a human teacher?
Oh God, no.
No.
No,
You would lack that human connection.
Yeah.
I think it's just preference because I know like with the whole summer school stuff and how most of it's online, most people prefer it that way. But then like you guys, you prefer having a human connection.
It's not just a
Right.
human connection. It's just
Yeah,
it
there's a
keeps me
difference.
more. What
Like
is it?
engaged.
Yeah, more engaged because it's like, oh, I actually gotta like sit up, pay
There's someone
attention.
actually in front of me,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's
No,
someone
but that's
expecting
checking
things
you.
from me.
That's where we
Yeah.
get used to it. Like we've gotten used to like a human teaching us, but now we're gonna get used to computers teaching us.
That's
To be
gonna
Like,
honest,
once we get used to it and our kids get used to it, it's gonna be good.
Yeah,
Why do
you say that?
I think it'd be interesting.
I think it would have to depend on what.
Right?
I think it would have to depend on like let's like the computer or the robot's able to do, right? Because it's like if a kid is sleeping in class, but they're only like designed to teach and not do anything else. I mean, that's gonna be bad. Everyone's just gonna
Well,
be sleeping
what
in class.
teacher actually like
There are some teachers like that,
Listen-
just saying.
that just ignore? I just ignore the kid who's sleeping.
if computers taught us instead of human teachers, I think everybody's social skills would plummet. Because like
Oh.
that is a huge part of our social interactions being in that classroom for 7 hours. I think we would like a society in general
Well,
would
it's
have
not
a
like
huge
everyone
difference.
around us is a computer.
Well,
Just the teacher.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like,
Well, maybe.
could you like our history
Wait.
teacher Esteban? Could you imagine that being a computer? That has to be so boring.
Oh my
I
god.
think-
Well, here's what happened. You could program it to like be cool. Like,
To be
it's not like,
cool.
Be cool.
it's not like
Right.
it'd be like stale and just
Program-
like teach the stuff. It could like pop a jokes and like
like
I don't
Well,
know.
program
but
it
that's
to
sad.
handle
Just
a
It
kid.
could
program it.
develop character. It could have a voice. I don't know.
I think a better like counter to that though is that what if a class requires group work, right? Like it's like essential to it. How are you gonna
yeah.
program a curriculum that the computer is able to understand? Like, oh yeah, they have to make sure like it's divided this way or there's a hierarchy or whatever.
To like identify progress.
Yeah. But
Well-
any progress that's
well, that's
made
easy.
though is
Any assessment is really,
unidentifiable
like-
because
Yeah, you
every
can-
any
you can
product
tell.
that's turned in is supposed to be different and like in a sense does not match another. They're gonna be like all over the place in terms of like of a spectrum, right? Like one's gonna be
Then-
super artistic, while another one to be like super factual. All right.
And I guess that'll show in the test scores, right?
But I'm not talking about test scores because those are identifiable and like actual like things that you can like measure. I'm talking about projects.
Well, everything we do in school yields a grade, right? And a number.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's all we need, right?
Yeah, but But like I'm talking about things such as like creativity and things. Those things are subjective, not
Yeah,
objective.
but where would we show that in school? In clubs, right? Not in actually
in
class.
art. What?
What?
You show
There's
that,
art
You would show that
class.
like in art and
Alright,
like
well,
computer
that's one
science.
class.
Language arts.
We did that in computer science. We've done that in some math projects. We've done it in history. Like it can go in any subject.
Okay, but what I'm saying, it's not like it's gonna prevent you from showing that creativity. What do you?
But
what
I'm
do you
saying
mean?
in what
Yeah, but
way?
how are they gonna like assess it?
But you're not understanding though. Like, how would it be able to differentiate something that was actually like creative
Why would you want to?
or something that's like made from like badly made out of thin air that you
Oh.
can totally tell the student made like three
Like copied it or
like
something?
no, not copied, like 3 minutes before class. Like let's say it's well written, but there's no creative thing to it whatsoever because it's super subjective. Like at what point can you make creativity objective and not subjective?
Where it meets all the requirements, right? That kid who made it before class, and if he did make it before class, he met all the requirements, then I guess he should get all the points, right? Because he managed to do that.
But that's like, okay, let's say there's an art project, right?
Okay.
It says make sure you use these types of colors and stuff, but it's badly mixed in together. So they didn't
That's different because
so
not
they-
everyone can art.
they didn't properly use the techniques or whatever. But the computer wouldn't be able
That's
to
a very specific situation, though.
well, it's
Right.
it's putting
Well,
it
maybe
to an
for those kind of
extreme.
situations, you wouldn't use a computer. I'm saying for like baseline classes like math or something or history.
Okay, yeah, like for that and stuff, like I understand.
I feel like if it was a computer instead of an actual person, then the kids would be less engaged. And like there's some bad kids, right? Let's just say there's like a bad kid in class, right? There's a computer trying to teach. Like, what's to prevent them from just like
Well, that's
Being
where
big
it gets better, right?
or
Some
not paying
teachers just
attention.
ignore that, but computers, if they do
Won't they try
if
to
they do
like,
see that? Well, you can also have like they detect like audio right in the class,
Yeah.
and if they have like keywords, then they're like they have their keywords that the kids are saying.
Stop that.
what would they
There
say?
you
No talking.
They would send a report to somebody.
Yeah.
But what if the entire class goes to sleep because they can only send keywords?
After
no one
10,
speaks.
if 10 minutes, 10 minutes have
entire
gone by,
vocabulary
no
is in
sound,
keywords.
pop a
Let-
joke.
let's say an entire class of 30, right? Everyone just decides, you know what? Forget about this computer teacher. I'm gonna go to sleep, and everyone in the class decides to like do it, right?
Mhm.
What does the computer do then? Because
Well,
if you had
what
a
would,
teacher,
what would a
If
regular
10
teacher
minutes-
do?
if you had a
What
normal
audio
teacher,
Yeah, but right
is
to
detected.
yeah. What a teacher would be like? What are you doing? Why are you sleeping in class? Get up.
like a regular teacher would be able to stop the first student from doing it, thus like
Mhm.
Yeah.
making
Well, how
like
would a
every
computer
other
not be able
student
to do
follow.
I feel like if it wasn't a human, that would create kind of like a student against the teacher bond. Unlike
Well,
Which
don't
that-
those
that-
bonds
that-
already exist?
that, they do, but I feel like it would be more common if it were computers.
Like,
Well, here's
you
what I'm
get
saying.
more-
Computers can be a lot more strict than a human.
That is well.
I think
Like, if you think like, hey, students, I'm bringing in this computer. It'll send a report to like the district if it detects anything. I'd be kind of scared. I mean,
Yeah, that would be
I
kind
wouldn't
of
do anything.
threatening.
Yeah, exactly. But it'd be strict and also create order in the classroom.
but
Whereas
think
a
kids
human
would
teacher
hate it,
has
though.
more lenience.
But at the same time, though, if they see that an entire school is getting like reports like that to districts and stuff, that's sending the
Well,
message that they're not working.
they're
That's
not
the,
working for the first generation.
that's
right?
that's the double-edged sword.
And then that's when they have the time to improve on the bot too.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's not how
Those
our
are the
that's not how our
trials.
education system works. It's if it doesn't work
But it
immediately, we're
will.
scrapping it.
Okay, but does anybody want a computer as their teacher?
No.
I'd be interested.
I would not.
Heck
Well,
no.
I'd be
it'd
willing to
it'd
try
be
it.
weird. It'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd
But-
be cool.
It's not like I
How
don't know.
would
It'd be
and then also like how would you like bring up like let's say a student's like not comfortable in a certain class.
That's what
Well,
I was
yeah,
thinking.
I
That's a
guess
very
that's
common
right.
thing that happens like
So,
in
like-
every single class. How do you bring that up to a computer? You need like an actual person to deal with that.
okay.
And
Well,
you got
you could have the computer teach a class of students that aren't usually as attached to the teacher then.
No, it's not even that a student would be attached to a teacher. It's just that a student would feel uncomfortable in a class. That happens in every class. Like guaranteed, there's always like minimum of like 3 to 5. And
Well, it's not like you have to make it comfortable for everybody. That's not how life is.
What if someone's getting bullied in class? Like someone's like beating up a kid.
Send a report.
Yeah, send a report.
Report.
No, wait,
Okay,
but then,
no,
Send a
there could also
report.
be, like,
Call
an
the
alarm.
authorities.
No,
but then
like,
the kid
obviously
getting
they're
beat
gonna
up
be
is
like,
like, you know what?
security.
Thank God something
Yeah,
didn't
exactly.
immediately
No,
happen
no,
to
no,
stop
just-
the beating.
It would just
It
call
What would a
security.
human teacher do? They'd call security.
So, but hey, a human security, right? What if the teacher? Why
I'm
is
not
it?
saying
You don't
the
think they
security's
wouldn't
gonna
make the
be a
bot
robot.
already like be prepared for that?
No, but I think it's too.
Like I'm pretty sure they would
like-
have that prepared.
Yeah,
you know
like,
what?
if
Then
it's a
maybe
text
they beat up the
activation.
robot, dude. Beating up
What?
the
That,
robot.
yeah, that
No, that's
as
hard
it's getting
because
beat
metal.
up, it says report.
Well,
Whoa.
okay, hold on. I actually
Plus,
have experience destroying metal things. It's not that hard.
Exactly.
So then it'll do.
It
What if
would
it
literally-
hacks a
It'll be
hostile
the special
mode?
compartment then.
It would literally,
made out
it
of
would,
vibranium.
it wouldn't have to be hollow, which would be impossible because it has to house all the parts, and it has to be light enough that it's a multi-story like school. It's not gonna like break the ground that it's like going on, and above that, it actually has to house all the tech. Like
What if it's
So
just
it-
like a screen on the wall?
that's even worse, dude. Everyone can just hide. How is it gonna
What if
send?
it's-
wait,
How
hang
is
on.
it gonna send a report on students they can't even see?
Wait,
Like, you know
going
what-
back
what-
to the going
What
back
if
to the
there's
point.
multiple cameras?
No, it would be for. What is it, Vincent?
What?
Wait, what you wanted to say?
Oh yeah, all right. So like, let's say a kid's getting bullied. What if this is like a repeated thing, right? How would a kid be comfortable going up to a computer and saying,
That's exactly why they would be comfortable.
because they
the
send a
students-
report? Thank
No,
God.
because they
No.
will do what they say they do.
Snitches get stitches, Esteban.
Like with teachers, they'll be like, it's variable because like I don't know, teachers don't usually do what they say, right? And I don't know, like we've all had good teachers, right? It's not like we had a teacher that literally didn't care about his job because we haven't, because we're in a good district. But I'm saying like in a district where like there's a lot of teachers that really don't care about their jobs and could care less about what happens to kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a computer will do what it's programmed to do. If it sees this, it'll do it.
But I think another thing to keep in mind is, as you said, that some districts are not as good as others, right? Let's say you literally have gang violence in a classroom.
All right, now here's-
What do
that's
you do
why
then?
you
Because
just-
No, hang on.
that's where you have humans. Like,
Yeah,
if it
that's
gets that
definitely-
complicated,
Yeah,
put
you
humans
should
in.
like you should. I feel like it. What's it called? The district would, or not the district, but like the school specifically would know, like which people are anomalies in a sense, and
Yeah.
how they should receive like. No, I'm not trying to say like different treatment, just different circumstances.
See, but now you're creating an unfair education system where, oh yeah, the better people get, you know.
Well,
the
isn't it
more
already like that?
That's the point. Like, why would you want to like further?
That's
that
already
separation?
kind of how it is, though.
Wait. What?
If anything, it'd be better because the people who are getting the better stuff will be getting even better stuff.
But the point is not to even help the people that already have the better stuff, because that just makes it worse. You want to help those that don't have the better stuff.
But I mean, there's having better
That's-
stuff or being a bad person. Which one are we talking about? Because I thought we were talking about if you're a bad person, then you get worse teachers or better teachers.
Well, in the case of gang violence, where a robot would be there, what would a human be like do right there?
That's true. What would a human do?
'Cause
Either
it's not
way,
that
you would have
bad.
to like,
You
Lay down the
monster.
law.
you would have to like call the
What do you
authority.
mean by that?
But one person,
And then what if
one
it starts
person against the
threatening
gang.
the teacher?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, what would the teacher do?
No, I'm arguing for you, Esteban.
Okay, yeah, I know, but then what would the teacher do?
Yeah,
Like,
well, what the teacher?
I don't know.
But that's like an issue, even if we had robots in the class. Like,
I think.
those are extremes. We don't want to consider
Yeah,
those.
Yeah.
right now we're talking about extremes.
Yeah.
Okay, what about
if we're talking about
politics?
norms,
Like,
I feel
What
like it would work out.
what about like people who want to have a robot teacher sign up for it? If you
Yeah,
don't want to,
like-
there you go.
Yeah, just make it optional.
There we go.
Like, I'm not saying
Don't
it wouldn't
force
work
it.
out. I'm not saying that it wouldn't work out. I'm saying I wouldn't be interested with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea, Dar. Sign up.
sign up if you want.
We need to sign
A
up.
robot teacher.
But when have they ever allowed students to decide the curriculum? That's
Well,
Well,
this is
then
the
they
time
give
where-
us some
No, it'll-
flexibility.
We applied to get into these programs.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
get
applied.
flexibility.
Okay, but this is the thing. It was already created.
Well, This is
So
what
if
this.
we already create the robots, then
The robots are a change. Why can't
Well,
that change
when
too?
was anything not created?
No, no, no.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
My
wait,
point,
what
my
are we
point
talking
is,
about
my
now?
point, no, no, no,
What
no, no.
is what is the world?
My point is, you're saying sign up for it, but the thing is, it's not going to be the student's choice. It's ultimately going to be up to like government.
Why not?
And like their
What do
their
you, why
say.
why
of-
can't
Why
it be
wouldn't
the
it be the
student's
student's choice?
okay, think about it this way: when Common Core was pushed out, all right,
Yeah.
did we have the say of saying, oh, they were like, students, do you guys want to join Common Core?
Common Core is a thing for all schools, though.
That's the
Like that's
point.
not just like.
No, but think about it. Did they say, oh, students, you're gonna vote for Common Core whether or not you want this to be your new curriculum?
That's different.
It's
That's
gonna,
different.
How is
That's
that
different because they're putting everyone in the
That's
same
state
situation
mandated.
where like something like the robot, you get to choose whether or not. So if you don't want it, then you don't want it. They're not
There
gonna
is
force it
no
on you.
there is no alternative to Common Core, whereas there would be an alternative to robot teachers.
Okay, so then what would be the alternative to robot teacher where we would have had a standpoint?
Human
A human
teachers.
A
teacher.
human teacher.
No. I
No.
mean, what would be like the parallel of a robot teacher in which students got to vote whether or not they would like the change and the change actually happened?
College. You get a choice to go to which college you want to, and depending on what's taught there, you get to choose your classes. That
Okay.
may not happen in high school, but that does happen in college.
Okay, but that's saying college, okay? That's where they already have to accept you. That's the college's own private funds and stuff. You're talking about like public,
Well,
like,
that depends.
I'm talking about like the public and stuff.
Right.
So how would you make that into like a thing where it's already the students' choices? It's not gonna happen. If they decide, okay, we're gonna enact the robots, they're gonna enact them despite the fact that if people or the students decided to vote for them or not, they're gonna do it either way if they see
Alright,
fit.
yeah, I see where you're going. But
We don't have the final say. We don't even have a say in it. It's nothing.
but who's to
I
say
feel it
that
could be a program similar to like IB though. Like if you sign up for this course, you'll
Yeah,
get this.
that's
that
what
would
I'm
that yeah
thinking.
that would be cool.
That's what I'm thinking.
See, but
A
then at
program
that
would be
point, it would have to
different
be like a new school designed specifically for the robots.
Well, not well.
Well, there
maybe.
are some schools that operate only under IB.
We could do that. Yeah. Oh yeah, there are
Yeah.
schools that already do that. We could.
Mhm.
That could happen.
Then that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
that's how,
you would have
like,
to
my middle
create a
school is.
new. You'd have to create a new facility specified for the robots, and then people can then sign up for that. But the thing is that, if it's not that, and if it's if it's gonna just be brought down, then it's pretty much final say. Like students will never have a say in it unless it's a new facility, a new school, and like things like that where like people can choose to go into it or they can be invited to like and go into it.
You may not need a new like whole like district, but you
Not district.
like you would definitely need a new whole like program.
Yeah.
All right,
That's a good note to leave off on as we end this podcast.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, cool.
So any final thoughts before we end it out?
I'm good.
Nah, I think that's it.
Robot teachers would be pretty cool.
Meh.
Engage violent students.
All right. Well, that's gonna conclude the second episode of the podcast. Wait, we already said the final words, huh? The heck.
I like this one better than the last one.
Oh,
We're learning.
Okay,
we are learning.
Goodbye.
All right.
Thank
see
you
ya.
for listening. Goodbye.
We have to come up with a better outro.